And yeah, we're live. Thanks everyone for joining us today. Before we jump into today's discussion about WooCommerce, I'd like to give you some news from our end. Finally, WP2FA plugin has reached 100,000 installations. Thank you everyone for using the plugin. It's growing really fast. We've moved from 90,000 to 100,000 active installations in the last 3 months only. So that's a good sign. Of course, it's a good sign that more people are implementing 2FA or some sort of other authentication hardening, which is a good sign. Also, this morning we released an update of WP Activity Lock. Nothing big, it's a maintenance update. However, it has a performance improvement for multi-site networks. So yeah, if you are running WP Activity Lock, especially on multi-site network, it's definitely recommended to upgrade your plugin. And of course, a number of bug fixes. And again, thanks everyone who reports, because there are a few bug fixes which were reported by users. Thank you everyone for using the plugin and for taking the time to report any issues you encounter. Today, we're going to talk about WooCommerce. I'm sure if you've been in the WordPress scene, especially in the WooCommerce or using WooCommerce, I'm sure you've heard some misconceptions people have about WooCommerce. So yeah, we're going to discuss those. And today with me, I have someone who's been building with WooCommerce since 2011. He's the founder of Business Bloomers, runs one of the largest WooCommerce-focused communities with over 20,000 subscribers. He's a developer, educator, plugin creator, and also founder of the Checkout Summit. And with me, I have Roberto Melogli. How are you, Roberto? No, sorry, Rodolfo.
Hello.
My bad.
It's okay. Roberto, Rodolfo, it's all the same.
Yeah,
It's still
yeah,
Italian after at
exactly.
the end of the day. But I'm doing well, thank you.
Good. Rodolfo is joining us from the beautiful island of Sicily. I guess it's sunny there, right? And warm already.
Cloudy, actually. Yes.
Nice, nice, good. So let's jump right in. You've been working with WooCommerce, so yeah, like you've been building with WooCommerce since 2011. Like, just so people get an idea of like the evolution of WooCommerce. What was WooCommerce back then like? Although
Mhm.
it's Woo nowadays, not WooCommerce, it's Woo. What was Woo back then? And yeah, what made you stick with it for, yeah, we're 2026, for, yeah, 15 years?
Yes. So that's a good question to start with. So I started my web design career in 2011. I met a few local entrepreneurs and businesses and local companies. I used to live in Ireland, and at the time I had no idea how to build websites. I only knew a bit of HTML, um, front page and the likes. And about late 11, early 2012, one of my first clients asked me, "Oh, can you do an e-commerce site?" And I said, "Of course I can." Obviously, I had no idea how to do that, but I just went back home and did a bit of research. And at the time, it was a kind of a battle between Magento and WooCommerce. I mean, there were other open source options or premium options out there, but everyone on the internet was talking about these two platforms. So I said, after a few research and tests and stuff like that, I said, this Magento is not good to me. I don't feel like it's very friendly and easy. I'll just stick with WooCommerce. Of course, I had no idea that it was built on top of WordPress, and that day is the day I entered the WordPress space. So basically my first invoice was to a client for a WooCommerce site, and from that moment on, it's like history. But that was about you know 15 years ago, and that's crazy.
How was the e-commerce space back then? It wasn't as common as today, no? I mean, e-commerce.
Well, you see, I have no idea because I just entered
Mm.
the space at that moment. Like I'm a civil engineer, like nothing to do with coding, with development, with design. So I just came straight into the ecosystem, and I had absolutely no clue. What I loved about WooCommerce at that time, at that stage, was that loads of people used to blog about solutions, about customizations, about tutorials, and so there was so much literature online. So I said, this looks good. Looks like easy. Looks like, in 5 minutes you can install it. It's free. So I basically have no upfront costs. It's no risk for me as, working for my first client. So I'll just go with it. And I had no idea what the e-commerce ecosystem was. I mean, there was Joomla, there was Magento, there was this WooCommerce, maybe, Shopify in the super early days, but I think it's, came, later. But overall, I had no idea whatsoever. So with that first website, I learned how to, install WordPress. I learned that I needed proper hosting. I learned that, I needed to install the WooCommerce plugin, and then, figuring things out as I, came along, and as the client was asking me, can we make that purple? Can we move that footer somewhere else? Or can we make the single product page a little bit more, stand out, or whatever it is? So, I was moving things around, and I fell in love with WooCommerce. So this is so cool. I learned PHP on the way while I was working for this client. And from that moment onwards, I never looked back.
Nice. And over the last 15 years, how has been the evolution of WooCommerce? Has you see like some genuine improvements in terms of from the both technical, ease of use, product perspective? What were like the biggest changes you've noticed?
Yes, let's say that I followed the evolution very close because I've been working with it basically every day for the last 15 years. But I must say that it's evident that there was an evolution from coding point of view, that there was an evolution from a performance point of view, from layout, whatever settings, whatever you think about. But I think the biggest thing about WooCommerce over the years has been the community, has been the people behind it, the people in front of it, the people talking about it, like us, but also people working in WooCommerce and so on. So I think that unlike other platforms, we have a very strong community, a very big amount of people that oh, that person is great at that person is amazing doing so, and that is specialized in something, that person is an unbelievable blogger, that person is a YouTuber. I mean, there's so many figures inside this community, but I think that in these 15 years, what really stood out was the community. And what is keeping WooCommerce thriving is the community.
Nice. I think you can say it's the same for almost every open source project, WordPress and stuff. WordPress, I think its strongest point is the community by far. It's, I mean, of course, the platform is strong, but the community makes it much different. Unfortunately, WooCommerce, as the title of this episode, has people have wrong misconceptions of WooCommerce. So yeah, let's like with the most obvious. Like I hear it a lot. WooCommerce is slow. What is usually the problem? Because you hear it a lot. WooCommerce is slow. It's bulky. I'm sure you've seen a few stores. You've troubleshot a few of them. Like, what is usually the issue? Is it like real WooCommerce, or is it maybe a hosting problem because they don't have enough resources, or it's usually as well because it's a bit of a complex product. Not complex, but there are a lot of options when it comes to WooCommerce. So it could be that users are not configured correctly. So of course it's going to be slow. What are the most common reasons why it's labeled as slow and bulky?
Yeah. Let's say first that in order to handle WooCommerce, there is a bit of a steep learning curve, as opposed to some other software that might be ready to go and you don't need to know anything about the architecture, about the code, and so on. WooCommerce is slow is something that a lot of non-WordPress people would say, or that a lot of former WooCommerce merchants would say now that they moved somewhere else. And that a lot of agencies who don't particularly love working with WooCommerce say. I have nothing against that. The problem is that WooCommerce is not slow. And the problem is that the server is slow, or that some plugins that you add to your WordPress install slow down WooCommerce, or that whatever you're doing right now, like you're trying to upload 50,000 products and the website crashes. I mean, that's not a WooCommerce fault. It's a problem before then, which is knowing your hosting provider inside out, knowing your server, knowing what sort of features you need for a WordPress site, especially if you're working with WooCommerce. Once you get to master that initial setup, then WooCommerce is never slow. WooCommerce is never the point of slowness. It's always something else. Of course, to make sure that people can arrive to the checkout page and complete the order, everything must be super fast. So you make sure that as an agency, as a developer, as a freelancer, whatever, as a merchant, you know not only your hosting very well, but also your stack of plugins and themes. So if you're smart enough, WooCommerce can be super fast. It's only that you never know unless you're very much aware of what sort of tools and features and stacks you're using.
I see. It's a funny thing because I think people don't realize to run some, even if it's a good, well-coded plugin and efficient from the code point of view, that you need resources. That's something I think that people, because in fact, even I really don't like these articles you see online, like, oh, how many plugins should I run on my work? It's not how many plugins, it's like what functionality do you need? And of course, if you need certain functionality, I said, like, you cannot expect to run a fully blown WooCommerce with 2FA and Pask and everything, logging and firewalls on a shared hosting, because of course it's going to suffer. You're setting up your website for failure, quite frankly. So if you need certain resources, especially if you're expecting certain number of visitors, then of course you need to cater for it. So like I'm sure you've seen some very large scale WooCommerce stores. What do you see differently? Like, what do these like large scale WooCommerce stores do differently from the smaller ones when it comes to performance, infrastructure, DevOps, maybe even team structure or even budget? What do they do differently when you see like these big stores? They're running very fast, yet you see all these small stores like, oh, WooCommerce is slow. It's not real. What's the biggest difference you've seen between like a really well-oiled bigger store versus the not so good stores?
Yes, that's a million-dollar question, but I think that what I've seen from larger stores is that they have a lot of money to pay an agency to look after the infrastructure. So they never have to worry about management or installing plugins or doing maintenance or stuff like that. So if you're a large store and you pick the right agency, you will never have to worry for a single second that your website is going to go down, or that the checkout is going to freeze, or that the product page is low, or that there was a security problem and you got hacked. So I think once you scale and once you start making money, I think that investing into a group of people that can look after your code and your stack and your architecture, I mean, that's the best investment that a large merchant can do. It's really unusual to find a 6-7 figure merchant who is also able to DIY on everything, or who has the time, especially if they're shipping items and they have to go to the post office every day. I mean, they definitely have no time to also look after the plugins and the maintenance and the updating and the checking the change logs and stuff like that. So I think this is the biggest difference that I can see, is who can afford someone to look after their website versus the person that can only afford to do it by themselves.
I see. So is it fair to say that WooCommerce is not exactly, I mean, if you have a very small store, it's one thing, but as soon as you start an actual business, is it fair to say that WooCommerce is not for the everyday user kind of thing?
Yeah, I would say so. I think that, of course, it depends on the nature of the business. It's, you're selling digital items, you're selling physical products, you're selling worldwide, or you're only selling locally, you're offer pickup, delivery because you have an actual location where people come and collect the stuff. I mean, it really depends. But I would say that, especially 15 years ago, 14 years ago, whatever it was, people used to start with WooCommerce because it was free, because it was open source, because it was coming out of the box with a WordPress, and WordPress was easy to install it through your hosting control panel, cPanel, whatever it was. So it was super easy, super affordable, perfect for a small business. Then over the years, I think that the small merchants became way more familiar with WordPress and WooCommerce, so now they're way more advanced. The agencies are doing great work right now with WooCommerce, and starting from the hosting right through performance, and performance also conversion rate optimization. So there's loads to be working on a WooCommerce site, lots of potential into each single website. So that's why I say that if you're advanced, you can definitely maximize your assets. If you're not advanced, you can still do it. And I mean, I see lots of people with super basic websites still doing loads of money. So it really depends. But once you start making a decent amount of revenue, that's the time where maybe you see if you can scale, if you can double your sales, if you can improve the speed of your site, if you can do better at marketing, follow up, and so on. So there is definitely always room for improvement and learning.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a people might have the wrong perception. I think it's the same with WordPress, and we see it a lot in security as well because of some things that we notice. For example, WordPress is promoted, which is a good thing, like democratizing the web, and like it's easy to set up. Everyone can set up the famous 5-minute install. However, what people don't realize, there's a difference between setting up a website quickly and maintaining it as it grows, keeping it secure all the time. And it's the same with WooCommerce. Like as we were saying, like if you want just maybe a few payments, a handful of products, it's one thing. But yeah, when you need to scale up and grow, you need to pay professionals. Is it like there's a perception gap between like, because people, if you have a shop, as in like not e-commerce, so if you have a physical shop, people they do invest. They do invest. You have to refurbish the shop. You're not going to try to fix the air condition yourself. You're getting a professional because you don't. However, with websites, it seems, especially the open source WordPress, people are like, oh, I just do it yourself. And as soon as you tell them, oh, this plugin costs $99, it's expensive, I can't afford it. What is that misunderstanding about the value and like, because at the end of the day, if you have an e-commerce store, that is your shop. That is your business shop to the world, your window to the world, But why do people still have this misconception that, of course, if you have a physical shop, you're going to get a professional plasterer, painter, I don't know, someone who builds up. But with the website, it's like people are still like, oh, I'm not going to pay $99 for this. What is this wrong perception gap?
Yeah. I don't know why that is. I mean, in fairness, whenever you open a physical shop, you need to invest big. I mean, the renting, the bills from electricity and whatever, um, all the furniture, the staff and the actual products you need to buy in advance and then hoping to resell them. Uh, everything costs you a lot of money even before you start selling. I mean, I live in a place where every other week some physical shops close down, and it's really sad. But that's what it is. It's like people actually lose money on that. So switching then to a digital platform where you can sell online, people expect that if WooCommerce is free to install, same as WordPress, then it must be free forever. I mean, they will never need to invest in anything just because it works. But then, on Black Friday, your website goes down, or it's Christmas and you're trying to deliver the last few items within, 21st of December, and then after that there is a cutoff, and you should stop selling online. And then, you know, lots of other things that you definitely need. You want to know, who of your staff changed that product title, and you want access to a log. I mean, lots of things that then you need at some stage to turn that basic website into an actual selling machine. And if you want to make it into an engineered system, at that stage, you need to invest money. So people are super scared to pay $19 per month on something, or having to pay whatever Stripe or PayPal fees. But you know, if you open the physical shop, that would be way worse than that. So I think it's two different kind of entrepreneurs. The traditional entrepreneur know that they need to invest, 100,000 just to open an activity, while the digital entrepreneur knows that they can do anything for free, see if it works, and if it does, invest on that. So I think it's just a different way of thinking.
Yeah, and quite frankly, online is much easier because, as you said, as if you have to open a shop, you have to fork out the money up front. If you have an online business, especially if you're a bit of a hands-on person yourself, a bit technical, then you can do it. Of course, you have to put in the time, but it doesn't cost you much in terms of money. And nowadays, everything costs a lot of things. I mean, like today, as some listeners might notice, I'm not in the usual office because I'm doing like a bit of a background for the podcast, and everything, just a bit of a wall, some basic stuff, everything costs thousands of euros. So
Absolutely.
so yeah. So
But the
which
great thing about e-commerce, like I just wanted to add one thing, is that you can even sell products that are not even yours. I mean, take a look at drop shipping. I mean, that's the basically $0 investment on a business where you don't even own stock and you can resell someone else's product. So that's the beauty of online commerce. I mean, technically, on paper, you don't even need to buy stock before you sell it. So that's the great thing about that.
exactly, yeah, because the supplier keeps everything. People
Mhm.
order from you, right? That's drop shipping, and you just send the order, as in like tell the supplier about the order, and they ship it and handle returns and everything. So you literally, your job is running the e-commerce store. You're not doing anything else. Interesting. In fact, yeah, one of the other misconceptions people have about WooCommerce is that, yeah, it's related to this subject. WooCommerce is complex, and you need to be a developer to use Woo. Yeah, I mean, as you were saying, like to grow, definitely you need some technical assistance, especially if you're not technical yourself. However, I've used WooCommerce myself. I'm not a specialist. However, setting up the first product, setting up Stripe or PayPal integration is pretty much straightforward. Um, why does Woo still has this people have this perception of WooCommerce that is still complex?
I don't know. I mean, to be honest, even Shopify is complex. I mean, anything has got its learning curve. and anything has got, the time that you need to figure out how to get the thing that you want on a website, because that's the most difficult thing. I mean, you don't want to just go with any template that you purchase online. You upload some random products and you start selling. And it doesn't work like that. So you need to master photography. You need to master like copy and content writing. You need to master once again the options and the settings and stuff like that. So I don't think WooCommerce is difficult. I mean, of course I am biased. I mean, I've been using it for 15 years, but 15 years ago I didn't find it difficult whatsoever. I didn't even know what WordPress was. So I think that if we keep going by focusing on the fact that WooCommerce is easy and that you can set up your store in 24 hours if you really want to, then we're ahead of the competition, because it's seriously, I mean, I've built stores in 24 hours in the past, and it wasn't difficult at all if you have basic setups and you have simple flows. Then if you want to make it, as we were saying earlier, to make it performant, to make it optimized in regard to conversion, if you want to implement marketing and you want to build the full system from social media to multi-channels, of course that's as complex as it can be. But the basic website, I mean, that's super fast and super easy.
Yeah, in fact, you mentioned that was going to be my follow-up question. You mentioned Shopify. I've never used Shopify myself. I've never used WooCommerce, as in like I've used it in the past to play a bit around, etc., mostly, but I'm not a technical expert in it. However, I've never heard anyone saying Shopify is difficult. Actually, I've heard WordPress developers who develop WordPress plugins and also for Shopify saying, "Oh, it's a much bit." Why people have this perception? Is it because, of course, with Shopify itself hosted and you don't have to deal with hosting? Why do people have this perception that Shopify is much easier, it's much better? Because as you're saying, you still have to set up some integrations, your products upload yours. So why do people have this perception that Shopify or any other SaaS model is easier?
Yeah, I think you never have to worry about the first level, which we mentioned earlier, which is the hosting, the setup, the installation, the maintenance, the plugins, and the picking a theme, whatever. In Shopify, you sign up, which of course you have to pay for it, and then you upload your products. You pick a simple template, and if you want, you can sell immediately. So it's a different platform. It's a different conception. It's something that is ready to go. It's in a box. But then, and here comes the biggest difference, I think. As soon as you start doing well in Shopify, I mean, the Shopify apps are very expensive, and they give you loads of features and loads of options, but they're very expensive. So at the end, the total cost of ownership is way higher if you compare, apples to apples. I mean, same features to same features than a WooCommerce store. Also, if you're selling unusual things, Shopify might not approve your kind of business. So this is also something that we need to mention, which is the WooCommerce. You can do whatever you want with it. You can sell whatever you want with it, as long as you can get paid because you've enabled bank transfers or crypto or some proper payment gateway that allows you to sell specific items. Then you can have a WooCommerce site. Maybe Shopify doesn't allow you, doesn't let you in because of what you're selling. So there is also the freedom to do whatever you want, to sell whatever you want, and to own your data. So Shopify tomorrow can shut down your website on paper, or can change the features, or can do whatever they want. While with WooCommerce, the data is yours, you own it. If WooCommerce decides to change stuff, you can even fork it and use your own version. So it doesn't really give you any sort of problems. And I think that's another aspect that a lot of people tend to forget about.
Yeah, it's a very good point, and I think as you mentioned, because it's a SaaS like Shopify, you get the basically they're taking care of the hosting and stuff. However, as you grow, and as you said, you have the freedom to do what you want on WooCommerce. In fact, it brings me to the next point, because usually WooCommerce is associated, oh, it's only for small business, for the small mom and pop shops kind of thing. I think it's usually the other way around. I mean, like, are there any stores, any big stores on Shopify, or usually like there is a limit kind of to Shopify? Because then, of course, with WooCommerce, you have the freedom to build much more scalable solutions. Is it usually the other way around? How, like, is WooCommerce usually does attract like bigger businesses, or how's the balance there?
Yeah, I don't think there is a rule. I mean, there's just a lot of hype, a lot of, you know, great branding work done by Shopify because they can.
Yeah, that's for
And
sure. I've seen. Yeah,
loads of ads and marketing and cool things and amazing technology, whatever it is. WooCommerce can't, but they can still fight on different aspects, which is once again the freedom, the ownership, the hopefully being super easy to set up for a beginner, or being super complex as an engineering engine, as an engine for those who want to do more. And I mean, the great thing about WooCommerce, there is a plugin for everything, or even several plugins that do the same thing. So it's
yeah,
super confusing to pick the best ones, but you can build the best puzzle website in the world with just a WooCommerce install and some plugins added to it. And you can really maximize your, visibility, your searchability, your performance, your sales, your marketing, and so on. So that's the beauty of WooCommerce. If you want, you can go further. If you don't need, you can stay small and save money, spend basically nothing on your stack, and try to grow. And at that stage is when, once again, you will start looking into more ways to get more revenue, more streams, and more plugins, more extensions, and more marketing, and so on.
no, for sure, Shopify has a very good marketing, because what you were mentioning, I've seen some adverts in the past. Actually, my children mentioned it to me a few weeks ago, because they have this advert like where someone literally just uploads a photo, and while they're eating dinner, the mobile starts ringing. Oh, order, tin tin tin. Which, I mean, it's not the reality of of how you sell online. You just upload a photo, and that same evening, you start selling like crazy. But they give this perception and make it that's so easy to set up, kind of thing. So yeah. So is the SaaS versus model debate more? It's more of a business model debate rather than technical, because technically, clearly, WooCommerce can, and most probably can more, because it's open source and you have the freedom. As you said, there are so many plugins, but even if there aren't plugins for what you need, you can develop your own. Shopify is a bit more different. I know you can develop add-ons, but as you said, there's that sort of gatekeeper where they might not accept what you want, or etc. So is it more like a business model debate rather than technical?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of both. On one hand, Shopify is like the perfect place for non-technical people. They just sign up, they upload a couple of products, they enter their whatever bank details, and they get paid. WooCommerce is a little bit more for people who are there playing with something, experimenting, and trying to do something different, and once again owning their data and have full ownership on that, and total freedom. And at that stage it becomes technical, of course. I mean, if you want to do well in WooCommerce, you must know how WordPress works. You must know what are the pros and cons of WooCommerce. You must know all these little things in order to succeed, in order to stay online, basically. In Shopify, you never have to worry about that, even though, and we will say later where this will happen, even though Shopify is not like perfect. It can be slow, it can break, it can give you loads of problems. So even at that stage, you need to be technical in order to know it inside out, or you just pay an agency like millions of dollars and you're gonna be all right. So I guess that even Shopify at some stage, it can become quite technical, and we will cover that also at Checkout Summit. So I'm excited for that.
Nice. Anna said hello. I don't know if you know her, but you know her, Anna.
Of course I do. I am.
Yeah, hello. She's a member of the Dutch WordPress community. Interesting. So, is there just curiosity? Is there like an easy way to migrate from a SaaS platform to WooCommerce?
Is there an easy way
to migrate from a SaaS platform like Shopify,
right,
to WooCommerce?
And nothing is ever easy, so I think we can erase this word from our vocabulary. And but yeah, I mean, it really depends on what kind of data you have. It really depends on how well written and populated is your export file that you will then need to import into the other side. And it really depends on your setup. I mean, you have a simple business with just one tax region and 2 shipping methods and 10 products is one thing. If you running a multi-million-dollar business, then you need to be super careful, and it might be way more complex. So that applies to anything, to everything. I mean, I see, in our space, people sticking to the same piece of software for 25 years just because it's so hard to move away from it, and not because the other, software is not better or faster. So I totally understand that.
No, I agree with you. We should kind of like get rid of this easy word, because nothing is easy, and you need to offer that. But what I meant is are there like any out of the box solutions like plugins or online services that do this, or
I think WooCommerce itself is working on a Shopify to WooCommerce automatic migration. I mean, a few months ago they were talking about it. I don't know if they kept working on it or they stopped because they had other priorities, AI. And but yeah, I mean, there's so many migration tools, and I mean, on paper, it costs you nothing to get the export file, CSV, Excel spreadsheet from one software and trying to import it into the other one. I mean, that's the most basic and easiest thing to do. The difficult thing is when you have complex business setups and customizations and product metadata or whatever it is. At that stage, it really becomes difficult, and you need weeks and weeks just to plan. A proper migration is never easy.
That's interesting. Anna left us a comment. One of the things that help to convince shop owners to migrate to WooCommerce is that WooCommerce core output is accessibility ready. It's a very good point, actually. Nice.
Yeah, especially now.
Yeah, of course, with all the regulations coming up, definitely. That's very interesting. Switching a bit to security, WooCommerce has this reputation. By the way, it's the same with WordPress, especially if when I speak to developers, especially in the web application security industry, who are not in the WordPress ecosystem, they have this reputation that it's kind of like this low quality software. It's not secure. WooCommerce is not secure. WordPress is secure. The reality is, with WooCommerce, I'm not sure, but most of the things we've seen with WordPress usually are user issues or plugins not updated or software not updated or user issues, hijacks passwords and stuff like that. In your through your experience, like, have you seen any particular WooCommerce security failures that, as a, like, not WooCommerce, like when you've dealt with store owners, what are the most common failures that you've seen people failing at, basically?
Yeah. So, to finish up the thing about not being secure, I mean, anything is not secure. Even, Shopify or whatever, if you then use unsecure passwords, I mean, anyone can get in anyway. So,
Exactly.
I mean, that's a user problem. I mean, if you don't have 2FA nowadays on everything, then, you're dead, basically, because, I mean, it's so easy to hack things just with a login form. So there is definitely the user part. Lots of people complain, and then they install a crappy plugin that hasn't been updated in 10 years, and they wonder why their website is slow or why they got hacked. And that's the user problem. And then the architecture, to be honest, is not that WordPress is not secure. It's just that it has so much distribution, and there are so many websites running on WordPress that if I were a hacker, the first thing that I would try to target, it would be a WordPress plugin, just because it's, I can get way more benefits from hacking a WordPress plugin rather than, I don't know, going onto OpenCart or whatever other systems out there. I get more advantage, I get more distribution, I get more people clicking on the wrong button. So I think there are people exploiting this, and also users, so merchants, not paying attention to these red flags that you get often whenever you install a plugin. I mean, that's, it's known that you need to look at the changelog, at the reviews, how often it is updated, and whether they had problems in the past with security patches and stuff like that. Performance, they need to test it on staging first. I mean, these are the basics of WordPress, and no one tends to do this for some reason. So that's the, I think it's 90% people and 10% software, to be honest.
No, I agree 100%. In fact, I think last year, I don't know how many vulnerabilities were discovered in the core, but a handful of just a handful, because core is now, of course, it's proven, it's battle tested, so it's very secure, and that's why I think the majority of issues by far are user problems or outdated software, which is also a user problem. So yeah, so it's and quite frankly, any software, there's no 100% secure software. It's just a question of when you find the issues. So as such, WordPress and even WooCommerce and most of the big plugins, especially those which have been around, have a number of installs. Yeah, in general, secure, and it's also a question of if a plugin has security issues, as long as the developer updates the plugin, issues a patch, and releases it, it's all good. Because quite frankly, every software out there has had
Absolutely.
and has vulnerabilities. It's just the way it is. Beyond security, what are the biggest operational mistakes typically Woo store owners make?
Okay, we could be here talking for about 10 hours on this topic alone.
Yeah, let's choose, I don't know, like top 2 or 3 and see like what are the most common mistakes you see that people can learn from,
I
basically.
think that regarding security, I mean, just the fact of, as I said, logging into the website. I mean, I know a lot of people who would share those credentials with, marketers, freelancers, agencies, without, creating a second user for that. Or they don't change the passwords, they don't enable 2FA, they once again they install plugins from random sources or even from the repo, but they haven't checked if they're actually reliable. Basically is not knowing the basics, not reading the book before doing things, expecting that it's going to work, expecting that they're never going to get hacked. I mean, everyone is going to get hacked. If someone can hack a bank website, trust me, they can definitely hack your website. So it's only a matter of when you will be hacked. So as long as you have a process in place and you do the things by the book and you keep your plugins up to date and you do the best you can do with logins and rate limiting and avoiding spammers and make sure you don't click on random buttons and random emails, and then also like as I said, like follow the standards and paying attention. Trust me, having a backup system in place where you don't save your backup files in the same server as where your website runs, but you have it elsewhere. I mean, these are just smart things that you should be doing, that you should know about it once you're on WordPress. And if something happens, with one click, you come back online with a clean website. So things that just you need to know, and nothing will happen. Or if it does, you will have a fix.
Yeah, that's exactly what we were saying before. It's security is website maintenance. That's similar. Like if you don't expect to maintain your physical air condition, but people expect to be able to maintain their website, and it's kind of like the Achilles heels of WordPress. We're saying, hey, it's easy to set up, it's easy to run, which is true. It's very easy. However, people have no experience, no understanding of what it takes to run a website. As you were saying, the basics, when you're installing a plugin, check at least the reviews, check how much the install base, check the forums, and all these stuff. Like you should test on staging first. You said to yourself, like these are basics, but no one seems to do them. And that's exactly because people are not trained to maintain a website. So it's in a way, it's WordPress is promoted as a very good solution and very easy to use, but at the same time, of course, it becomes a problem with people who are not experienced. So, and that is why, unfortunately, I think WooCommerce is the same. That's why they get this reputation of being insecure, being difficult to use. They always break down. Yeah, of course, if you have a WooCommerce store and you just install, I've seen it myself. Like I don't know how many plugins, God knows from where, for what, whatever. The chances of it crashing are much higher. And it's not a WooCommerce problem; it's more of a user problem. I've seen even like with security. I've seen websites with like 2 different firewalls and 4 different Active-to-Lock solution, 2 different plugins. Like what? Just because you are actually creating more problems rather than solutions there. So crash.
Performance as well, same thing.
And if you understand how exactly, and if you understand how it works, one is enough. If you're not sure, check which is the best one for you, because every firewall, every logging plugin, every 2FA has its pros and cons. Check which is the one that fits your requirements and use that one. So yeah, it's also a bit of a user education issue, unfortunately. If you are a store owner and you were looking for someone to help you with your Woo installation, just what makes a good Woo developer nowadays? What should people, if you're a small business owner, what should you look for, and or what and where to look for?
Yeah, I'd say that this question comes at the right time, because we're in the age where we converse with a chat window on on a screen. So anyone is an expert. Anyone can learn a few things about WooCommerce. But the experience that you're looking for as a merchant is someone who is in the community, I think. Someone who has been there for a while, someone who knows how WooCommerce even thinks, what they're working on next, what their vision is, what their direction is, so that whatever you install today, that is future proof. That the expert you spoke to is also available in the future if something breaks, because they know exactly what happened. They have access to the logs, to the change logs, to the new software, to the plugins, to everything. They know the whole, the problem about WooCommerce is not WooCommerce. The problem about WooCommerce is that there are a million plugins out there. So the expert, the developer, the freelancer should have a knowledge of what's out there, what works well with WooCommerce, because WooCommerce wouldn't tell you. So you need to figure that out yourself. You need to test, you need to play with it. And if I can add a little note, it would be amazing if your freelancer, agency, developer, whatever, used to run or has a WooCommerce site and sell things by themselves, because that's the best proof. It's like when you sell SEO services and then you're on page 11 of Google. I mean, you need to basically have some proof to show to the world that you can handle that. And I always told the WooCommerce staff, it would be nice if each one of you had an actual running store. And you've seen some of them actually doing it, because otherwise you will never understand all the different aspects of running a website. Yeah, you're great at coding, but then you don't know about how a thank you page should be designed, or you don't know what kind of emails you need to send, or you don't know what kind of design the homepage should have, and so on. So I think it's great if your developer is also a user. That's bonus point.
Definitely, yeah, yes, yeah, very good point. Because I've seen the same. We do the same with our plugins, and this coming from when I used to work for other companies, software companies. I remember, like back in the early days, I worked for other software companies, not in WordPress, and one of our mantras was always like, we have to use our own software, because if it's not useful for us, then what's the point? I mean, like, you cannot really experience what your user is experiencing, which is a very good point. You also mentioned, the magic window AI. Have you seen an actual impacts or things that have been affected by AI in the WooCommerce ecosystem?
Yeah, let's say that. Let's say that in the last couple of years, everything has changed. I mean, not just WooCommerce, even how we, do grocery shopping. How we sleep at night and so on. So I mean, everything is basically, we're in the middle of a revolution, and same applies to WooCommerce. I've seen AI get way better at giving you answers, at giving you solutions, at giving you even pieces of code. I've seen AI being very effective, but only if you can handle it. So only if you can read it, if you can have an opinion about the output, if you can revise it, and if you are able to test it. Otherwise, it's just a waste of time, and you'd rather buy a plugin and forget about that. Also, what I've seen is very high-end developers become super familiar with AI and automations and very complex setups. I don't think I can work at that level. In fact, a few days ago, I was kind of, asking away on social media, like, should I spend time into learning and, become a little bit more advanced? Because all I do is chatting to this window, and that's where I stop. Lots of people are doing crazy stuff, like, which, on some end is like useful and amazing. On the other hand, is like they would have never coded that stuff. They're doing just for fun, just for playing. So I'm in a limbo at the moment. But yeah, WooCommerce has changed a lot, and in fact, WooCommerce is working a lot towards making the platform, super AI ready, and making it to integrate with everything out there, but it's impossible to catch up. Like every week there is a new release, a new software that you're supposed to integrate with. So they're really working hard on this. So I say that as long as WooCommerce is AI ready and as long as the user is familiar with coding, then it's good. But as soon as I get an email from a potential client telling me, oh, this is the code I got from ChatGPT, it's not working, can you revise it? I mean, at that stage, you really understand that it's just a waste of time and it should have come to you in the first place just to get the thing done. So you must be a developer to get the best out of AI at the moment.
Yeah, it's the same with me. I've been experimenting a lot with AI, and I agree with you. It's like you really need to know, like everything else, quite frankly. Nothing is easy. I mean, they said it's like I've seen these stories like where someone over the weekend who was just a sales assistant developed their own CRM system. They sold it to the business for millions. Yeah, it's you need to be a developer. You need definitely if you have an architectural mindset, you've used software before, you know how software works, etc. You can do a lot. But the average non-technical person, yeah, they can't do much. And as you're saying, you have to be careful because yes, you can build some things with AI, but it's unfortunately creating a lot of friction. Like you're saying, a client comes back to you like, I just wrote this one with AI. It's not working. Can you please review it? Like it, it's just creating more problems. I think that's about it about WooCommerce. However, before we end this episode, I'd like to talk to you about because you are organizing the Checkout Summit. Just curious, especially nowadays with so much more online. Yeah, you're organizing the Checkout Summit. It will be taking place in Sicily and what are the dates exactly? Can you remind me? It's in April, right?
23rd and 24th of April.
Of April. Like, why take the risk of organizing a physical conference in 2026?
That's a question I ask myself as well every day I wake up. But yeah, so why? Because I've been basically asking for a WooCommerce conference, for an in-person conference forever. And at the end I said, I'll do it. So basically it was right about time. I had extra time because AI freed up time
Yeah.
for me. So I said we need to meet up in person, have conversations, and you know how a 1 minute in-person conversation is way better than a 2 hours online call or a Slack chat, whatever it is. So I'm pretty convinced that this was the right move. It's a lot of work. It's been a lot of work, but we're only 49 days away, and I'm excited. We're going to get loads of amazing experts coming from everywhere. I think you're going to. And,
Yes, exactly. Yes, yes.
and the beauty of that is that a lot can happen at that conference. It's been the first WooCommerce conference in years. I mean, the last one was 2017. By WooCommerce itself used to be called WooConf, but it was back in the US for 3 years back then in a row. And I wanted something in Europe. Yet we're getting people from Australia, California, Norway, South Africa, India, and everywhere. So it's like incredible. And the reason why I did it is because I love the community. To get back to the very first question that we had today, it's all about the people. It's all about the connections. And I wouldn't be here on this podcast. I wouldn't be here for 15 years if I didn't work on my connections, on my network, on my friendships, and spend time with my colleagues. So this is the beauty of WooCommerce, and this is why I want to give back to the community by trying to organize something that can spark conversations and generate business. Because I mean, people invest into a flight, into a ticket, into accommodation, and they want to know that there's going to be a return on the investment, and this is definitely going to happen.
Nice, nice. By the way, I've got nothing against in-person conferences and stuff. I asked you just out of curiosity. We are a remote company, and I agree 100% with what you said. We are a remote company, so we operate online. We have Slack, video calls, and all these things. However, we've just done it a few weeks ago. You can have a conversation over 3-4 months over Slack and online. You meet for 2 days in person, and you cover so much more
Exactly.
than you can cover online. And not just that, you actually build a more personal connection with the person. I mean, you can still build it online, but once you meet the person, you have such a very different perspective of who that person is. The most simple things, sometimes someone sends you a message on Slack, you've never met them in person. It's like sometimes you don't know, maybe it sounds so, maybe he or she, whatever, they're very angry or not. But once you meet them in person and then you go back to working online, you start understanding
Sure.
what they actually mean. So yes, in person is definitely there's nothing replaces. There's a lot of technology, but nothing replaces an in-person
Yeah.
meeting.
And
So
also we need it. Like we work every day from our homes and we never see anyone. And same as a company would have their yearly retreat. I
exactly,
mean, same with us. We need our people time. It's not just being indoor in the dark in front of a
exactly,
computer, from 9 to 5, not really from 9 to 9, and
yeah,
spending time in person while also being in nice place and good food and relaxing, with a walk on the beach, whatever it is. That's what I like. That's why I wanted this thing, and I hope
yeah.
it's going to be a success.
Nice. For those who do not know, in fact, it's going to happen at a resort in Sicily, and through the website, through the same your Checkout Summit website, you can book everything, including accommodation. And I'm going myself. I'm not paid to say this, by the way, but yeah, I'm from. I've been to many conferences. Is definitely very well priced, the accommodation and everything. So that's for sure. So and it seems it's going to be a really fun thing. Um, who is this event for? As in, like, why should people attend? Who will benefit from this event? What type of attendee should you be?
Yeah, I defined the keyword makers. So with the WooCommerce makers, I have a bit of founders, a bit of freelancers, a bit of agency owners, a bit of also merchants. I mean, merchants who are a little bit more advanced and can talk a bit of tech. Um, so, this is mainly for the ones who define themselves as experts, um, the ones who love WooCommerce, the ones who love the WooCommerce people, and just because of these three things, people should go there. There are also completely new, like, people who want to enter the WooCommerce space or brands, and that's also very nice because they want to see what this hype, if there is a hype about the community, is. They want to know the key people. They want to see who the movers, who the makers are. And I told them, you have to go there. And I think that this is more or less what the audience is going to be. 33% agencies, 33% freelancers, and 33% founders. More or less, that's the breakdown.
Nice, nice, very good. What will attendees walk away with that they can get from YouTube, blogs, or online courses?
Yeah. You see, we have 48 hours plus the welcome dinner plus the goodbye breakfast. So that's almost 2 days. Sorry, 3 days. And because it's a small conference, so it's not like 3,000 people, it's 100, 150 max. You will actually have the time to talk to everyone, to know everyone. And I mean, if you can have a very good single conversation with one potential partner, or who knows, an acquisition, or who knows, someone who wants to hire you, or who knows, someone who wants to buy your software, whatever it is, I mean, that's your return on the investment. building one single good connection can be super helpful for the coming years. Imagine 100 of them. So my goal is to also have a lot of networking and breakout sessions so that actually people can get to know each other and speak to different people, because every time I go to a WordCamp, I tend to be overwhelmed and I want to speak to everyone. I tend to stick with my 5 friends and that's it. But in this case, I actually want to spark conversations and partnerships and meetings and whatever it is, because we only have 72 hours and that's super precious time. People should make the most of it.
Nice, very, very interesting. And I'm presuming if this succeeds, and hopefully it will succeed, I believe it will, is this going to become a yearly summit?
Yes, but I will decide on April the 25th, which is the day after the conference ends, because I'm working hard. I've been working hard for 8 months. It will be 10 months, once we kick off. So I don't want to get distracted by a 5-year plan. I just want to put all my energy on this, trying to make it acceptable. I mean, because it's founded by me. I've got no other employees or no other help, no outside help. It won't be perfect, but it will happen. And if I make it happen, properly, if I'm 65% happy with it, then I might think that it's worth investing into a second event. So we'll see.
Good,
Come and
good.
see and see if and convince me to do a second year.
Of course,
That's
because it's a lot
that's
of
the way.
work. So yeah, you have the effort has to pay off. And by the way, I test what you said. I've been to a lot of conferences. There is a very big difference between a small, intimate conference where you have 100 people focused on one topic versus one where there are like 3,000. I've been even to one with 6,000. Again, different things, but that's what more like not even networking. It's just like to learn maybe and see what's new and stuff. But if you want to really network with people, make new connections, nothing beats a small intimate conference. For those who want to find more information, is check out summit.com, right?
Yeah, correct.
Good. One last question before we end this episode. For those sitting on the fence and unsure whether to choose WooCommerce or a SaaS, like what framework should they use to decide, and where they can go to find more information and get started without getting overwhelmed?
About WooCommerce, like WooCommerce information.
SaaS versus WooCommerce, yeah, and where they can go to say, okay.
Yeah, I see there are probably a million articles online.
Is there like a source where a website you would recommend?
Yeah, I think the best source doesn't exist, to be honest. I mean, it would be easy to say go to my website, but it doesn't really make any difference. At this stage, it's just chat once again with a window, and that might do the trick. But I think that if someone wants to learn WooCommerce, first of all, they need to learn WordPress. And WordPress has got handbooks and like very good documentation. So this is the place where I will start from, because WooCommerce is just a WordPress plugin. So it's nothing special. It's nothing different than the other, 50,000 plugins out there. So if you know WordPress, then you will know a lot about WooCommerce without having to search through 10 million different websites. So start with the documentation and the plugin handbook, whatever it is, and start from there. And as Anne said, because we're in a super relevant time, also learn about accessibility and why that matters and why that's important, and how then that can make a huge difference to your website and to your website users. Because let's be honest, like no one's got the time to look into these things. But then as soon as you get a penalty, or you need to pay some sort of a fee just because your website wasn't accessible, then that becomes scary. So this is a good time to study that thing as well.
Exactly. In fact, as Anna said, as we can see, like data shows, because we're talking about regulations as well, but she said it's not just about regulations, which is right. So data shows that accessibility sites average 23% more traffic and rank for 27% more keywords, which is quite interesting. Thanks a lot, Rodolfo. Before we end, where can people find you and get in touch with you?
Yeah, I mean, they can get in touch with me through checkupsummit.com, businessbloomer.com, or via Twitter, through DM or LinkedIn. I'm very active there. Or they can just meet me in person, either at Checkout Summit or WordCamp Europe in Poland in June, which would be my other conference I'm going to. And I go to these conferences every year, and it's such a pleasure just to meet great people over and over again. This year is going to be in Poland, which is interesting. I've never been there before, and looking forward to loads of conversations and loads of talks about AI. Pretty sure about that.
Yes, definitely. No, it's something I think I mention every episode. That's one thing I love with WordPress. Before working in the WordPress ecosystem and the WordPress industry, I used to work in the other software industry, and I've been to some conferences as well. Mostly they're very business kind of thing. And one thing that, to me at least, made WordPress stand out is like the community. And
Yes.
these conferences, like the WordCamps, are an amazing place. And like you, I go every year, especially WordCamp Europe. And of course, it's a business thing, but more than that, it's about catching up with a lot of people you work with online, you see online. It's a really nice atmosphere. And I can't stress enough how helpful, not just business, even as person making friends, getting in touch with people, how helpful and how amazing WordCamps have been. Thanks a lot, Rodolfo.
The best business comes out of fun conversations as well.
Exactly.
So if someone goes there to just have fun and relax, trust me, they're gonna do business as well.
Exactly. Yeah, Anna is asking are you guys coming to, let me just show, are you guys coming to CloudFest and the WP Business Agency Summit on March 23rd? I'll be there. Will you be there?
I want, because I probably will be struggling, to
Very
complete
busy,
the last month of organization for my own event.
Yes.
But definitely something that I see is growing, and
yes,
possibly next year we'll be attending.
Nice. Now I'll be going to CloudFest as well this year. We're doing quite a few conferences. Thanks a lot again, Rodolfo. Thanks for your time. Thanks for everything, and thanks everyone for attending. Don't forget to check out checkoutsummit.com for more information about. I'm pretty sure it's going to be an amazing conference about e-commerce. Thanks everyone. Thanks.
Bye bye.